No way out. The crossroads of North Wood. The red Mustang devoured miles of asphalt, its engine a low growl against the hum of July wind. Greg, a solid wall of muscle and dark blonde curls, gripped the wheel, eyes fixed on the ribbon of road unspooling before them. Beside him, Sanita, her dark skin a stark contrast to the faded denim of her shorts, traced patterns on the fogged window with a thoughtful finger. In the back, Leanne, a whirlwind of blonde hair and restless energy, kicked her bare feet against the seat. A half-empty soda can balanced precariously on her thigh. Thomas, slumped in the other back seat, already had a joint lit, a thin stream of smoke curling from his lips. Hours blurred into a monotonous rhythm of highway and pit stops, gas station bathrooms, bags of chips, lukewarm sodas. The sun, a burning disk in the rear-view mirror, began its slow descent, painting the sky in bruised purples and angry oranges. Shadows lengthened, stretching across the fields like grasping fingers. Then, a break in the monotony. A flicker of light through the trees. A cluster of buildings, dark and angular, emerged from the encroaching twilight. "Hey guys, what is this for Old Town?" Leanne leaned forward, her voice cutting through the car's drone. Greg's foot found the brake pedal. The Mustang's tires whispered against the road as it slowed, then stopped. He squinted through the windshield. A weathered wooden sign, tilted precariously on a single post, revealed faded hand-painted letters. North Wood. Look at the sign. It reads North Wood. Leanne's jaw dropped. All be damned. I never seen or heard this town before. Greg reached for the glove compartment, pulling out a folded, crinkled road map. He spread it across the steering wheel, his brow furrowed in concentration. His finger traced the black lines, searching, then searching again. "Did you find it?" Sanita's voice was soft, a quiet counterpoint to the growing unease. His hand slapped the map. "No, it's not here. Not on this damn map." Thomas, a plume of smoke escaping his lips, chuckled. His eyes, already glazed from the weed, held a glint of mischief. A few years ago, a town near a forest was discovered by 3 men, hikers. They found this old town by accident, but one hiker came back completely insane. They locked him up in a mental institution. The other 2 hikers were never found, maybe murdered by him. Sanita shivered, a ripple across her shoulders. "I know that story. My father told me this when I was a little girl. The authorities tried to find the town, but they couldn't find it anywhere. The case was then closed." She hugged herself, a visible chill running down her spine. "I still get the chills if I remind myself of that story." Thomas snorted, a cloud of smoke escaping his nostrils. "You seriously believed that ghost story nonsense?" He let out a loud, derisive laugh, the sound grating in the sudden silence. "This story is so fake and stupid." Leanne stretched, dispelling the lingering tension. "Yeah, you're right. Let's find something to eat. It's getting late. I'm hungry." A collective grumble of agreement. Greg released the brake, and the Mustang rolled forward. The unknown town of Northwood drawing them in. Greg eased the Mustang into a parking spot beside a dilapidated motel, its neon sign a fractured, buzzing promise of vacancy. They piled out, the car doors thudding shut, echoing in the unnatural stillness. The air, thick with the scent of damp earth and something vaguely metallic, pressed down on them. They moved as a unit, drawn by a silent, unspoken curiosity towards the main street. The town lay before them, a tableau frozen in time. A bakery with a display of petrified loaves, a general store with a faded advertisement for cigarettes, a barbershop with a striped pole still spinning, albeit slowly, on its axis. No cars, no streetlights hummed, no distant dog barked, no human sound whatsoever. The only movement was a discarded newspaper skittering across the cracked pavement, propelled by a phantom breeze. This is strange. The town is well preserved, like people left their stuff a few minutes ago. Greg's voice, usually booming, was a hushed whisper, but at the same time, nobody is here. Sanita's eyes darted around, her gaze lingering on the dark windows of the buildings. A knot tightened in her stomach. Maybe that story is true. Her voice was barely audible, a breath of a sound. Greg turned, his eyes meeting hers. A flicker of worry crossed his face. He nodded, a silent acknowledgement of her fear. Stay behind me, just in case. Thomas, meanwhile, had already spotted a store, its faded sign proclaiming it a general goods and liquor. He grinned, a predatory glint in his eye. Leanne, come on. He gestured towards the door, already pushing it open. The bell above the door gave a faint, rusty jingle, a lonely sound in the empty town. A few minutes later, they emerged, Thomas juggling several bottles of whiskey and a carton of cigarettes. Leanne with an armload of snacks and a loaf of bread. Look at me. Leanne twirled, a brightly colored scarf draped over her shoulders. A wide-brimmed hat perched jauntily on her head. She held up a pair of neon-green sunglasses, winking through them. Greg, still a shield in front of Sanita, watched them, a frown creasing his brow. Did you pay for all that? Leanne threw her head back, a peal of laughter echoing off the silent buildings. There is nobody around here. Why would you pay for free goods? Thomas shook his head, a smirk playing on his lips. Come on, man, who's going to notice this? Look around you. No living soul, no police. This is all free, man. They spent another hour wandering, the thrill of discovery quickly giving way to an eerie sense of isolation. Leanne, ever the opportunist, found a small boutique, emerging with a stack of brightly colored t-shirts, a sequined dress, and a pair of white go-go boots. She paraded down the street, humming a pop tune, oblivious to the growing unease that clung to Sanita like a shroud. The sun had long since dipped below the horizon, plunging northward into a deep, oppressive darkness. The Mustang, their only link to the world they knew, sat waiting. Greg slid into the driver's seat, the key cold against his palm. He turned it. The engine coughed, sputtered, then died. He tried again. Nothing. Just a dead metallic click. Oh no, what's going on? His voice was laced with frustration, a tremor of fear underneath. Sanita's heart hammered against her ribs. The bad feeling she'd tried to suppress now clawed its way to the surface. This was all wrong. Thomas, ever nonchalant, leaned back against the car door, taking a long drag from his joint. Well, we have free food. Maybe we can go to this motel in front of us for free too. Leanne clapped her hands, her eyes lighting up. Yeah, let's go. I want a shower too. The two of them, a whirlwind of reckless optimism, started towards the motel. Sanita grabbed Greg's arm, her fingers digging into his bicep. Is this a good idea? If the owners of this motel catch us, we're all in deep trouble. Greg covered her hand with his, a reassuring squeeze. If they do come back, we can explain our situation with the car. She nodded, though the unease still churned within her. They followed Thomas and Leanne, the motel's dark facade looming before them. Inside, the motel was a dusty relic of a bygone era. The air hung heavy with the scent of stale cigarettes and disinfectant. They found two rooms across the corridor from each other. The boys claimed one, the girls the other. To their surprise, the lights worked, casting a dim, yellow glow, and a trickle of warm water emerged from the showerhead. A small victory in a world suddenly devoid of them. Darkness had swallowed the town whole. Outside their window, a profound silence reigned, broken only by the distant rhythmic chirping of crickets. Greg peered through the window, his reflection a pale ghost against the black glass. He saw nothing, a wall of impenetrable night. Thomas, sprawled on one of the beds, lit another joint, the sweet, acrid scent filling the small room. See anything? Nah, nothing. I can't see anything from here. Greg sighed, turning from the window. Thomas pulled himself up, swaying slightly. He stumbled to the window, pressing his face against the glass. He traced a finger on the condensation. Damn, I left my final small bag of weed inside the car. He turned to Greg, his eyes wide and pleading. Can I get your car keys? Greg hesitated. Are you sure you can't wait for tomorrow? Thomas shook his head, already halfway out the door. Greg, with a sigh, tossed him the keys. Thomas caught them with surprising dexterity, then disappeared into the night. 20 minutes crawled by, then 30. Thomas didn't return. Greg's unease ratcheted up a notch. He went back to the window, straining his eyes against the darkness, searching for any sign of Thomas. Nothing. A cold dread seeped into his bones. He knew something was wrong. He grabbed the motel room key and stepped out into the deserted hallway, his footsteps echoing ominously. He needed to find Thomas. Across the hall, Leanne, flushed from a few swigs of stolen whiskey, was showing off her new clothes. She twirled in the sequined dress, its cheap fabric shimmering under the motel's dim light. I'm going to tell all my friends back home about this adventure. She giggled, striking a pose. Sanita sat on the edge of her bed, the stolen hat clutched in her hands. Her gaze drifted to the window. A sudden movement in the inky blackness outside. She froze. I see someone outside! Her voice was a strangled gasp, a whisper of terror. Leanne laughed, a high-pitched, slightly drunken sound. Oh, very funny, Sanita, trying to scare me. But the terror in Sanita's eyes was real. Leanne's laughter died in her throat. Her eyes followed Sanita's gaze. A tall, dark silhouette stood motionless in the middle of the street, its form a black hole against the already dark sky. Oh, my lord. We have to warn the guys. Leanne scrambled up, her previous bravado evaporating like mist. They practically fell out of their room, banging on the boy's door. No answer. They pushed it open. Empty. The beds unrumpled, the air still thick with the scent of Thomas's weed. No Greg. No Thomas. I knew it! I knew it! Something is wrong here! Sanita's voice rose to a shriek, a raw sound of panic. Leanne, though shaken, still searched, her eyes darting around the room as if the boys might materialize from the shadows. Then her gaze fell back on the street. The dark silhouette was still there, but now it seemed closer, taller. Its form was indistinct, a blot of pure blackness. But then, as her eyes adjusted, she saw them. 2 pinpricks of crimson fire, burning holes in the darkness, fixed on their window. She screamed, a visceral, guttural sound that tore through the silence of North Wood. You! Get away from here! She shrieked, her voice cracking with terror and a desperate, misplaced defiance. The dark figure didn't move, its red eyes glowing with an ancient, sinister malevolence. We are doomed. We have to get out of here quickly, Leanne. Sanita tugged at her arm, her own fear a cold hand around her throat. But Leanne didn't hear her. Her overconfident nature, fueled by fear and alcohol, took over. She pulled away from Sanita's grasp. Please don't go. Come back, Leanne, Sanita pleaded. But Leanne was already striding towards the motel's front door, a torrent of curses spilling from her lips. She threw the door open, stepping out onto the concrete, her figure stark against the motel's dim lights. She stopped a few feet from the dark man, her bravado faltering as she truly saw him. He was impossibly tall, his form swallowed by a long, dark coat. His face remained obscured by shadow, but those twin red embers burned with an unholy intensity. Leanne's swearing died in her throat. A whimper escaped her lips. Then a scream, a desperate raw sound, ripped from her lungs. The dark man moved, a blur of motion. His arm, impossibly long, swept upwards, a glint of metal in the moonlight. A long, sharp machete knife. It descended with chilling speed, a sickening swoosh, followed by a wet, visceral splash. Sanita watched, frozen in the doorway, as Leanne's head separated from her body, arcing through the air in a grotesque slow-motion ballet. The head hit the concrete with a dull thud. Her headless body swayed for a moment, then collapsed, a limp, bloody heap. Sanita's eyes were wide, unblinking, reflecting the horror before her. Leanne's lifeless form, a macabre doll, lay at the dark man's feet. A scream tried to claw its way out of Sanita's throat, but it lodged there, a choked, silent terror. Screaming is useless. The thought pierced through the fog of shock. I have to get out of here, now. She spun around, stumbling back into the motel, her legs like lead. She slammed the heavy front door shut, the latch clicking with a hollow finality, her breath hitched, ragged and shallow. 3 friends gone in one night. She scanned the deserted lobby, her eyes darting from the dusty reception desk to the silent, empty chairs. A payphone. She bolted towards it, her fingers fumbling for the receiver. "The phone doesn't work." The voice, weak and raspy, came from behind the reception desk. Sanita spun around, her heart leaping into her throat. A figure was slumped against the wall, half hidden by the desk. "Greg!" Relief, sharp and sudden, mingled with a fresh wave of terror. Oh my gosh, what happened? She saw it then, a dark spreading stain on his shoulder, soaking through his green jersey. "You're bleeding!" Greg, his face pale and drawn, clutched his shoulder. He attacked me." His voice was a strained whisper. "The tall man, with the machete." Sanita tore a towel from a nearby rack, pressing it against his wound. The fabric immediately soaked up the crimson. "Oh no, you have to go to a hospital right away." Her mind raced, trying to process the impossible. Where is Thomas? Greg's eyes, clouded with pain, held a deeper sorrow. He's next to the car, dead. His voice broke. Head chopped off. The same man. I found him. Then he came for me. Red glowing eyes. He had no face. Pure evil. Greg shuddered, a full body tremor. I managed to escape. Hid inside here. He didn't follow. Sanita's mind reeled. Greg, bleeding, possibly dying. Thomas, Leanne, gone. The car, dead. The phone, useless. No help. No way out. Trapped. She peered through the glass of the front door, her eyes scanning the street. The dark man was gone. She moved cautiously, checking each window, each angle, searching for any sign of him. Nothing. Just the oppressive blackness of Northwood. Hours stretched into an agonizing eternity. The silence of the motel pressed in on them, punctuated only by Greg's ragged breathing and the frantic thumping of Sanita's heart. Then a loud crash from the back. A metallic clang followed by the shattering of glass. The kitchen. Sanita froze, every muscle tensing. She moved slowly, stealthily towards the sound, her heart a frantic drum against her ribs. She peered around the corner into the dim light of the kitchen. "Oh, Jesus, that guy is standing at the back door, Greg," she hissed, her voice barely a whisper. Greg struggled to his feet, his face contorted with pain. "Look for something, a knife, something that can protect us both." Sanita's eyes darted around the kitchen, pots, pans, cutlery. Her gaze landed on a butcher block, 2 gleaming blades, heavy and sharp. She snatched them up, gripping them tightly, and ran back to Greg, who stood in the corridor, leaning heavily against the wall. They moved back to the reception room, holding the knives out before them, their points glinting faintly in the dim light. "Now we have to wait for what's coming," Greg whispered, his breath ragged. Sanita's senses were on high alert, every shadow a potential threat. She scanned the room, her eyes darting, searching. Then a window behind them exploded inwards, glass showering across the floor. The dark man stood in the gaping hole, his red eyes burning, the machete a dark extension of his arm. "Oh my God, we have to get out now," Greg roared, a surge of adrenaline momentarily overriding his pain. The dark man charged, his machete slicing through the air. Greg ducked, the blade whistling past his ear. "Hide in the kitchen, Sanita! Stay there!" Greg yelled, pushing her towards the doorway. Greg, the butcher knife a meager defense, faced the demon. The machete swung again, a blur of silver. He parried, the smaller knife clanging against the larger blade. The demon was fast, relentless. Greg's wounded shoulder screamed in protest with every movement. He knew his luck wouldn't last. He slowly retreated, backing into the kitchen, drawing the demon after him. Now they were truly trapped. The only way out was the back door, but the demon blocked it. Despair threatened to overwhelm Sanita. Then, a memory. A whisper from her childhood surfaced through the haze of terror. Her father's voice telling old stories by the fire. "Salt! Evil spirits or demons can't stand salt," she blurted out, the words a desperate prayer. She scrambled to the kitchen cupboard, frantically searching. Her fingers closed around a familiar container. Salt. The dark man, focused on Greg, turned his burning gaze on her. He charged, his machete raised high. "Senator, take cover!" Greg yelled, pushing her. She dodged, the blade missing her by a hair's breadth, but she lost her footing, falling hard onto the cold tile floor. The demon loomed over her, its machete rising for the killing blow. With a final surge of strength, Greg lunged, burying his knife in the demon's back. The creature stumbled, a guttural growl escaping its shadowed form. But it didn't fall. It turned, its red eyes blazing with an incandescent fury. Senator, adrenaline surging through her, scrambled to her feet. She ripped open the salt container, grabbing a handful, and flung it at the demon's face. A piercing shriek tore through the air, a sound of pure agony. The demon recoiled, its hands clawing at its face, its machete flailing wildly. "What did you throw at him?" Greg shouted, stunned. "It was normal salt," Senator yelled back, her voice shaking but defiant. The demon staggered, still screaming, but slowly, impossibly, it began to recover. Its red eyes now burning with an even fiercer hatred, fixed on them. It charged again, a terrifying silent roar of rage. Senator, moving with a desperate, primal instinct, scattered the remaining salt in a small circle around them. "It will protect us from evil demons," she explained to Greg, her voice trembling. The demon stopped, its glowing eyes fixed on the shimmering circle of salt. It stood motionless, its machete still clutched in its hand, glaring at them with an unholy patience. "How long will this take?" Greg whispered, his voice weak from pain and exhaustion. "Till the morning sun rises, I hope." They waited. An hour stretched into an eternity. The first faint blush of dawn painted the sky outside, a pale promise of light. As the first rays of sunlight pierced the shattered kitchen window, touching the demon's form, it reacted. A low hiss escaped it. Wisps of smoke began to curl from its dark coat, then from its skin. "Jesus, it's melting," Greg gasped, his eyes wide with disbelief. "Yeah, like real demons do." Senator watched, a strange mix of horror and triumph washing over her as the dark man shrieked, its form dissolving into black smoke, leaving only a faint, acrid smell behind. Moments later, after carefully scanning the area, they stumbled back to the Mustang. Senator slid into the driver's seat, her hand shaking as she inserted the key. She turned it. The engine roared to life. A beautiful, powerful sound. "It works! The car engine works!" she shouted, a tear tracing a path through the grime on her cheek. Greg, slumped in the passenger seat, managed a weak smile. She slammed the car into reverse, tires squealing, and sped out of Northwood, never looking back. The town, a nightmare now fading in the rear-view mirror, disappeared into the growing light of dawn.